Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. And you can catch this AFC South rivalry match on September 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on your local CBS affiliates. So both of these teams are coming into this game with a record of 1-2. And in the last 5 meetings, the Colts have been victorious as they've won 5 straight over their division rivals there in Tennessee. And the Titans started off with a strong win in Week 1 in Arrowhead against the Chiefs, but then they came home to Tennessee and they lost to the Cowboys, a very disappointing loss for Titans fans. And then they went on the road to Cincinnati and they got dominated by the Bengals. Of course, the Bengals are one of the best teams at home over the last couple years. Last year they were undefeated in Cincinnati, so you can't really fault them for losing in Cincinnati. But that loss in Week 2 to Dallas seems to have exposed Tennessee somewhat for what type of team they are heading forward in 2014. Of course, it is a transition year. We'll see, how things go moving forward with the new coach and everything. They are looking better than they did last year, but the Colts, on the other hand, after going 0-2 in their first 2 games for the first time in Andrew Luck's career, have left things wide open in the AFC South, which they were the front runner to repeat as division champions. But at this point, it's anyone's division, as anything can happen. As we're only in Week 4 here in the season, so there's plenty of games left to play. But they got that win against Jacksonville last week. A big win, of course, against Jacksonville. What does that really mean? But at least they got in the win column. And if you look at their 2 losses, they were both within 1 possession, as they lost by 7 points to the Broncos, who are the defending AFC champions. That was in Denver. And then that loss to Philadelphia on Monday Night Football, very disappointing, losing by a field goal to the Eagles. Of course, Luck just had a abysmal performance in that game. He only had 172 yards there, whereas in Week 1 and Week 3 he had 370 yards in both of those weeks in both of those games. So which Andrew Luck is going to show up in Week 4, as they host the Titans? The Tennessee Titans, if you look inside the numbers, they're actually surprisingly the number 2 defense against the pass when it comes to yards allowed. So the Titans have a good defense. They don't let up too many yards through the air. The Titans are only letting up 170 yards per game through the air. That's a very low number. That looks more like the number from Week 2 when the Colts faced the Eagles. Of course, that secondary, they got some pretty good players there with Bernard Pollard, Michael Griffin, James McCourty. They've all been, hawking that ball. McCourty's already got 2 picks. Griffin's got 1 pick. So they definitely could cause some turnovers. And, they definitely are going to be an interesting challenge for Andrew Luck, as that's going to be a matchup. The top matchup to watch in this game is Andrew Luck versus that Tennessee Titans secondary. They also have some decent linebackers, too. Of course, where the Titans really fall short, though, is their pass rush. Even their run defense as well. So if you look at the numbers for the run defense, the Titans are 24th in the NFL for yards allowed on the ground, whereas the Colts are 17th. Then again, the Colts, though, their pass defense is pretty bad. It's 28th in the league. So the Colts don't really have much of a defense. The Titans have a good secondary, but they allow a lot of yards on the ground, so expect Trent Richardson to get some yards. Bradshaw as well, as he's getting some more touches. We'll see, which back carries the load in Week 4. Will it be Richardson or Bradshaw? Expect them both, to get their touches in this game. Even though the Colts don't really run too much, they're a pass-heavy team. They've thrown the ball 130 times this season versus just 81 running attempts. So they've run the ball 49 more times, or they've run the ball 49 less times. They've passed it 49 more times than they've ran the ball. So they definitely favor the pass. But in this game, they're going to have to change that if they want to be successful against that Tennessee Titans defense. That is a ball hawking defense that causes turnovers, and we've seen so far, even though Andrew Luck's numbers have been very impressive so far this year, he is prone to some turnovers. He does have 9 touchdowns, but he also has 3 picks. Of course, on the other hand, you look at Jake Locker, he's got more picks than touchdowns, and he has 4 interceptions as opposed to 3 touchdowns. But the Colts defense that Locker's going to be facing is not as good as the Tennessee Titans defense that Andrew Luck will be facing. So that's what's going to make it a much closer game than you might at first glance think. If you look inside the numbers for their offense, when it comes to the running game, the Titans run the ball decently well. They're 10th in the league for rushing yards gained. Of course, the Colts are right there with them. They're 14th in the league in yards gained on the ground. So they're middle of the road. Of course, the Titans gain about 9 more yards at 131 yards on the ground per game versus 122.3 yards for the Colts per game. So it's like 8.7 more yards on the ground for the Titans. So it's really going to come down to if the Colts can run the ball. They're going to need to run the ball against this Titans defense that is susceptible to the run. When it comes to the pass, though, that is definitely the Colts' strength by far. So it'll be strength versus strength. Is the Colts are the number 3 team in the NFL when it comes to passing yards gained per game. If they average over 300 passing yards per game with 303.7 yards per game so far this season. Tennessee, on the other hand, they're 20th in the league. They average just over 200 at 217.3 yards per game through the air. The Tennessee Titans, they're not really too good on offense at running or passing, but they're a little bit better at running than they are at passing. Of course, they're going to have to get more carries for Bishop Sankey as he starts to, get something going there in week 3 in that loss. He ended up with 61 yards for the leading rusher for the Titans in week 3. But Sean Green has been getting the majority of their carries, but we'll see how that plays out here. They also have McCluster. Of course, McCluster is more of a passing threat, even though he's only caught 4 balls. He's ran for 14 times. But his yards are pretty similar. He has 41 receiving yards as opposed to 59 rushing yards. But it's going to be interesting to see if they work him into the game plan as well. But overall, I think the Colts are going to end up winning this game. Mainly, it's in Indianapolis. They need to win this game. They really do, because you cannot afford to lose to your division rivals at home, as I've said time and time again. I mean, a loss to Tennessee would be like 2 losses. So this is a game that they really have to win. It's, every game is a must-win, but this game, especially being against a division rival, it's definitely a must-win for Indianapolis, especially with their record at 1-2. They cannot afford to fall to 1-3. They have to get back to 500 if they want to compete for this division and if they want to make playoffs even as a wild card. Tennessee, same story. If they want to win this division, if they want to be competitive in the South, if they want to make the playoffs, a win in Indianapolis will go a long way towards that goal. Of course, the Titans are a little bit off from that. They're a couple years away from that. Maybe next year they'll be more, in the mix. But even it looked like this year, and it's still young this year. Anything can happen. Maybe they'll be in the mix. You never know. I still think they're at least a year away from being competitive and really competing with the Colts for this division title. I think it's going to be coming down to Houston and Indianapolis this year. Of course, we'll see. And that Colts defense is susceptible. They're not that good, so I do expect there to be plenty of scoring in this game. And I would not be surprised if it comes down to the end, a 1-possession game. But either way, I think the Colts are going to win in the end. And I think that even if the Colts do turn over the ball, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tennessee get a couple turnovers. I still think the Colts can bounce back from that. Andrew Luck has shown that he is not deterred by throwing interceptions. he gets right back out there and he'll go on a scoring drive. So I think that they can overcome that. Of course, that's going to be the key for Tennessee, though. They've got to cause those turnovers, keep the ball out of Luck's hand, keep them, forcing Indianapolis to run the ball. And then if they can shut them down there, they got to shut them down there too as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to contain that Colts offense. Is more than capable of putting up points. So that's what I think. I think the Colts are going to win this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to hear your thoughts. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so we bring you upon further reviews each and every week leading up to the game.